everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Edward Pollock. I'm the TechX Acceleration Manager here at the Net Zero Technology Centre.
My name is Mariah Ford. I work as the TechX Acceleration Lead.
Fantastic. So over the next probably 30 minutes, we are going to talk to you about our amazing opportunity, the TechX Clean Energy Accelerator program. And it's a chance for you to ask a lot of questions, find out more about the program. So I think you should have a Q&A option at the bottom of your screen. So all throughout today's session, feel free to fire in any questions that you've got, and we're more than happy to answer them as we go through the session today. And to give you some background, lovely background, the Net Zero Technology Centre, if you haven't heard of us, we are a not-for-profit organisation funded by the UK and Scottish Government to deploy and accelerate the introduction of brand new clean energy technologies that can help us decarbonise the energy industry. So it's a lot of amazing things that have come through our organisation where we try and find novel, fantastic ideas. We give them support, we give them funding, we give them opportunities for trials, we connect them with industry, all to make sure that our energy industry is ready and decarbonised for the future. And fingers crossed, there's a couple of you watching this along and thinking, I've got one of those technologies that could be a future key player in the energy industry. You're in the right place. So let's get started with the information about today's session. So let's go on to the next one, please, Sophie. So some of you are probably sat there maybe with a startup idea, and over the course of our time at the Net Zero Technology Centre, the TechX team, which is the entrepreneurship engine, we are there to find entrepreneurs, spin outs, and new technologies. We see startups face a number of key challenges. You start maybe in a university, or you have a spark in the shower of an idea. And one of the things that you might be facing is, okay, I can see this as a technology. How do I build that? How do I test that? How do I build a prototype? How do I get trials? How do I know an industry? So that technology development piece, which you might be able to tinker about at home, but when you get to start to grow this technology, it's a difficult challenge for startups to find the resources, the support, the community, to build those technologies. And that's a challenge that many of you might be sitting there thinking about. The other one is, okay, this is a great idea I've come up with, fantastic, but do other people think it's a good idea? Or I need expertise on this part. So, we've got a fantastic hydrogen system, but is it going to be safe? Who does the pipelines? Who does all these other parts of the business? So that's where you need experts, you need trusted sources, you need industry voices to shape that. And it's not easy to find them as an early stage startup. The problem that many of you are probably dealing with is, how do I get access to funding and investment? You need money to be able to grow this technology, and these technologies are probably quite sophisticated and advanced, that it doesn't just take a couple of £1,000, it takes a couple of $100,000 or maybe even millions. And that's not an easy thing to do on your own, and you need support with that. And no technology ever really works if nobody wants to buy it. And that's another challenge, is we have maybe lots of researchers, professors, academics, but they haven't really figured out what's the next step. Who's going to buy this? How do I sell this? What's the brand that I need to have to make this convincing to an audience in the energy industry? And then if you do then figure out who you're going to sell to, how on earth do you talk to these people? If you're selling to big major oil and gas companies or energy companies or the national grid. So you need to find those customers, speak to them, understand their issues. And then finally, how do you build a business? How do you have all those regulations, intellectual property, finance, legal, all of those aspects? It's a big hurdle to climb. So if any of those, maybe you're sat there thinking, actually, one or two of those things are the things that are keeping me up at night, I'm just not sure how to go about it, then hopefully these challenges that startups face are what we have designed the TechX Clean Energy Accelerator to tackle and to support through the process. Next slide, please. So this is us, the Net Zero Technology Centre, and in particular, TechX. So what is the Clean Energy Accelerator? Next slide, please. Well, the program is an accelerator program, much like many that you'll have seen, but there's a couple of things that are different. So one, it is a 15-week program that will run from February 2024 until June 2024. And for many people, some accelerator programs are small, part-time, online, little things you do once every week. TechX is a lot more intense. We sort of understand that you're in this to build a business. So the time that you spend on your program is full-time running the business. So you do need to be focused on that startup. But over that 15 weeks, it's a nice balance. So 15 weeks, the first week You get to come up here to the energy capital of Europe, Aberdeen in Scotland, to interact with loads of professionals in the energy industry, meet your cohort, get involved in technology development sessions, find partners, all in person. Then we have a number of weeks in our hybrid version, which is online. So typically that you might have sessions in the morning and then one-to-ones in the afternoon. Nothing on Fridays. Hooray! So you do get some time off, so it's not completely full-time. And there is some weeks off within the program as well. You have a middle week in Aberdeen, more hybrid sessions, and then a final week where you have your big pitch at the end as well. So that's how typically the program is structured. It seems like a long time, but we went through one earlier this year and it went very fast. So it's a really engaging process. You're really proactive. We're putting, all the learning together in key chunks so that you are able to get those key skills you need. And we are on the hunt for 14 phenomenal global startups that are able to help us decarbonize the energy industry. Next slide, please. So if you get accepted, which fingers crossed some of you on the call will be applying and getting accepted, what do you actually get? Well, we've mapped those back to those challenges you're facing. So if technology was the challenge, we really support with the tech development. That's finding suppliers, finding partners, working through your technology roadmap, understanding your technology readiness level, connecting you with places where you can trial and test, understanding certification and understanding greenhouse gas emissions. We have lots of sessions and partners to help you go from idea to prototype to trial as best we possibly can. We have loads of sessions with lots of expert mentors and partners that will help you get that expert voice, people who have experience in the energy industry, who can guide you in the right directions. We often also have a lot of investor sessions. So whether that's with our key partners, whether that's with investors all around the world, and getting you both in front of people who could give you money, but also the bigger part is understanding, even if you're in front of someone, what are you saying? How are you investor ready? What are your slides? What is your content? What's your finances going to look like? What's the story that you're convincing people of? How do you communicate? So considering all of those aspects to get you shiny and polished, ready for investors. And then, of course, we want to make sure you're ready for customers. So we get you ready with that commercial strategy, understanding your brand, how to do sales. And what's unique about TechX in terms of understanding customers is that lots of accelerator programs do the delightful thing which says, go and talk to customers. And if you're selling a toothbrush, easy peasy. You go to the local supermarket and you wander down the toothbrush aisle and you speak to people about why they're buying a toothbrush. If we said, go and talk to people who want to buy hydrogen electrolyzers, it's probably not someone you'll find in your supermarket so easily. And it's not someone you could just send a cold email to. So we in the Net Zero Technology Centre have an extensive industry network. And we work to speak with the startups to say, here's the type of people we think would be interested in our technology, who can validate if they actually want it, or challenge us to say, hang on, you've not considered this issue, or we would never be able to buy it like that. So we arrange dozens of meetings for you with those industry partners or with people out in industry who can give you that validation as part of the program, which as a benefit alone is probably quite a valuable aspect to help you get in those doors. And then, of course, the wider network of mentors, IP lawyers, finance support, all sorts of grant writing partners, various things like that. So a lovely mix of benefits that you can get if you go through the TechX program. Next slide, please. And the big one. Do you want to touch on this one, Mariah?
Sure thing. As if it wasn't good enough, you're sold already, but also each of the startups to make it onto the accelerator get £100,000 worth of grant funding. So that can be spent on anything that supports both your business development or your technology development. So it can be used for IP costs, that branding that we talked about, building out a website, but also some kind of tech development costs too. So building your prototype, buying kit for a lab and all that fun stuff. As well as that, £40,000 of it can be used towards new costs, so new staff costs, not paying the founders, but anybody else you want to bring in your team to help kind of build out the business and kind of bring new team members in too. The funding, it is a repayable grant. So if you are super successful in the 10 years after we've awarded it, we ask for you to pay it back. Maybe with some plus as well, depending on kind of how successful the company is. But we also have an ASA option as well for startups that are kind of looking to raise and would like to kind of have TechX as an investor into the company as well. So not only wonderful skills training sessions, but also a lovely pot of funding as well if you get onto the accelerator. And if you jump onto the next slide, Sophie, we can't talk about the accelerator without talking about our wonderful partners. So we have strategic partners in BP Ventures, Equinor Ventures, and ADNOC, which is Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, and they support the accelerator in multiple ways. So not only will you be getting super close relationships with them in the accelerator, you'll be meeting with them during that customer discovery process, and also during kind of the investment sessions. But they also provide a lovely pot of prize funding that is available at the end of the accelerator. So an extra £200,000 is available at the end of the accelerator, and for some lucky startups that are demonstrating that their technology is kind of going to change the world, and the startups and the strategic partners are excited about. And Accenture, our professional services partner, so they support, we talked about that kind of investor readiness, skills and training, they support that during the accelerator and help us deliver sessions, and again you'll have a super close relationship with them throughout. So if you want to jump onto the next slide. So you're sitting in the room, you're thinking, I'm sold, but are you in scope? Well, we're looking for anybody that is developing a technology that's TRL level 2 to 6. So that's anything from just past the basic idea, so you kind of, the tech concept is formulated, to your prototype having been demoed in a relevant environment. So it's pretty broad, and our sweet spot is the earlier the better, because the earlier the technology is, the more likely you can pivot and build it out based on that kind of feedback from customers that you get during that customer discovery phase. And we're looking for pre-profit and typically pre-revenue startups and teams or single founders. So you can be a one-man band that's super, super early and looking kind of build out your team and get that expertise in to kind of build out the business, or you can have multiple people in your team who can also attend the sessions as well. So we ask for up to 2 people that are kind of full-time on the program, but depending on the sessions, you may want to pull in other team members as well. If they're super technical, you may want to bring in your CTO type figure. If it's more kind of around this business modeling, you might bring in the CEO type person. So we're super flexible when it comes to kind of getting your teams involved, and also super supportive if you're a one-man band. You'll get to know your fellow pioneers, you'll have a support system through them, and also through kind of the mentors and partners that are on the accelerator. So in terms of technology, what are we looking for? What do we mean when we say clean energy? So we've got 6 buckets at the bottom here, and I'll go through them. But whilst I'm doing that, I'd encourage you all to kind of use the Q&A function and pop in where you see yourself fitting in these technology buckets. It'll give Ed and I a good insight into who we've got on the call today. So bucket 1, we're looking at CCUS and carbon removal solutions. Number 2, we're looking for low carbon hydrogen. Number 3 is alt fuels and green chemicals. 4, renewable power, looking at onshore and offshore solutions. We're looking at digital solutions and also decarbonized industrial heating, cooling, and other. So it's very broad. If you're thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure where I fit, I'd encourage you to go onto our website where we break these down into lovely, very specific bullets and that you'll be able to tick yourself against. So let's see if we've got anybody using the Q&A to pop what technology focus areas is. Oh, not yet. Throughout the session, use that function, pop in any questions as they come up, and Ed and I will make sure to address them. Should we jump on to the next slide? Perfect. So I want to introduce you all to Cameron. Cameron was studying for his PhD back in 2015 at the University of Edinburgh. He had an idea. He wanted to harness the energy of waves, and he had a startup idea. So together with his co-founder, Chris, he created Motion Energy. If we jump onto the next slide. They hit the drawing board and they pulled together their first design for their wave energy converter. They started to progress it, they built their prototype, but they were still thinking kind of how do we build the business around it? Who's our ideal customers? And what does motion look like in the future? So they started to build out their team. If you jump to the next slide, Sophie. And come 2019, I imagine they joined a call very similar to this. They sat and they listened to kind of what TechX had to offer, and they saw it as a perfect fit for them. They wanted to perfect their pitch, they wanted to speak to their customers, and they wanted to kind of start building up Motion as a company. So look at that branding and their story that they had. By this time, they'd had a team of around 6 people, but they wanted to take the next step. So they took the plunge, they applied to the accelerator, And if we jump onto the next slide, this is Motion Energy now. So during the accelerator, they perfected that pitch. They started to look at how they scaled their technology, and they spoke to their future customers about where their technology could be applied in the energy industry. Since then, as you can see, they've completely scaled their team, and they can see their wave energy converter is grown. It used to be able to be held in their hands, and I think you'd be struggling to lift that now. So right now, their wave energy converter is being tested offshore in Orkney. And they're working with partners actually on a field trial, and some of those partners were the ones that were originally introduced to them as part of the accelerator. So it's a super great insight into kind of the small part TechX has had to play in the company kind of growing and scaling their technology. Encourage you to all kind of look into the work that Motion's doing. They're super, super exciting, and they've still got kind of Cameron at the helm there helping kind of scale the technology and bringing in new team members. You jump onto the next slide. Do you want to do this one?
I can pick this up. So yeah, I've touched a little bit on this, but if you're sat there again, hopefully considering applying, the deadline is approaching soon. So you have until the 1st of October. So maybe just over 2 weeks left to get an application in. The next steps, you get your application in, and we have an assessment period. So we pull in experts from all across the energy industry, mentors, investors, partners, and they review your application videos and your documents, and they then decide on a final 14-ish, 16-ish to go through to our finalist pitch day, which then takes place on the 28th of November. So you would probably find out around just after the 2nd of November, so the week after. If you had been selected to go forward, you'll get information on having to put together a 5-minute pitch, and that pitch day happens virtually, so you'll be able to dial in from around the world, and it's a bit like if you've seen Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, and it's a bit like that. You have to do your pitch, and then you have to answer about 10 minutes worth of questions from our assessors, where they will then narrow it down to the startups that are selected onto the program. You'd find out again, probably the start of December, and we would do a bit of due diligence to make sure that whatever intellectual property or finances you said you had, we would double check that, and then all going well, you start on the program on the 26th of February, and it all builds up to the fantastic demo day in the 6th of June 2024. This is where you get the chance to pitch to an audience of over 100 people, able to demonstrate and showcase your technology, and hopefully get investment as well. So if you are interested in TechX, then have a quick Google, just type in TechX demo day, and you'll see YouTube videos come up of the demo days in the past. Worth it looking just at that, because the founders have found that a really powerful experience as part of the program. Next slide, please. So you are considering applying, you think this is it, what do you actually have to do? And hopefully you could start this today. So I would definitely do the first 2 steps of this today, even if you're still considering it. Is one, head to our Net Zero Technology Centre website and look for TechX, or Google TechX, and it will easily take you there. And you'll find a big apply now button, or you'll get it in your email post this webinar as well. So follow the link to the F6S profile. It's a bit like Facebook for startups, and you create your profile. Now, this information you put on your profile, you can put lots of information on there, and we don't necessarily assess just on that. So we assess on what you put on our application form. So if you put other things on your profile, videos and things like that, we won't review those as part of the assessment, only those that come in through our actual questions. So keep that in mind. Once you've created your profile, you click to apply, and then you can fill in our application questions. The application, you don't need really complex finance proposals. You don't need a detailed business plan. What you need is 3 videos. And they don't need to be the most complicated things in the world. And we'll explain what those videos look like in a second, but 3 videos, a small pitch deck, and then some technical questions about who you are and the information about your company. So not a huge onerous application process. So get those videos put together and filmed, submit your application by the 1st of October, wait to hear back, and then get ready and make sure you have that 28th of November in your diary, just in case you have to attend the pitch day if you get through to it. So what are involved in those videos? Next slide, please. The 3 videos cover 3 key areas. Now, technology, which is the first one, is 3 minutes. And I'd say this is the one that is weighted the highest. It's the one the judges are most importantly having to look at. And this explains what the technology is. So explain the situation, the problem that the energy industry is facing, and why your solution is able to solve that. You need to give a sufficient amount of detail that the judges can understand what the technology is, that it's memorable, that it's clear. So avoid any complicated jargon or overly scientific language, and just give a clear explanation of what the technology does. Not in as much detail that you have to give away all your intellectual property, that if someone watched that video, they could easily copy paste and do exactly what you're doing, but enough detail that they can go, yeah, I understand what it's doing. I can get that. So show us some visuals, show us some mock-ups, take it into your lab, whatever you have to kind of demonstrate the flow of how your technology is currently working as a prototype, or would in theory work, as you kind of hope to deploy it. So overlay videos, graphics, anything like that is very helpful. The second video is all about the team, and this one you could get a little bit creative in. So even if you're a single person team, you can bring in your mentors or your advisors or people that would support your business. And we've seen lots of interesting things here where founders have interviewed each other and where they've told stories about why they're, what sparked the idea for the business. And so again, 3 minutes. It doesn't need to be a really boring CV. I would avoid that. We want to know your experience. We want to know why you're talented to deliver this startup. But it doesn't need to be, I started my career here and then I did this job and then I did that job. Find an impactful way of getting across why you're an amazing founder and why we should be so excited to work with you. And hopefully that will convince the judges to be memorable. They're going to see about 30, 40 videos in one assessment session. So the team video is the one where you can maybe stand out a little bit and be memorable. And we've seen people in science lab coats with party poppers. We've seen people with props. We've seen people telling stories. All of that just makes us more memorable. The last video is only a 2-minute one. It is all about why TechX. And for those who are joining us from around the world, we are expecting you to have a UK impact. You don't need to be based in the UK to apply. But hopefully at some point you see your technology being deployed here. Maybe you imagine hiring some staff here at some point. For those of you who are in the UK, why is your technology going to create an impact? Are you going to hire people? Are you going to create jobs? And what could TechX bring to you? Why do you think this program is a good fit for what you're trying to do? And then the last thing is just 5 slides on a pitch deck, mainly to justify that technology video. So if you've got a graphic, if you've got a mock-up, if you've got a diagram, give us some materials like that. Because if you imagine the judges, they're sitting through all these videos and then they have to try and remember, a 30-second snippet of your video. They've watched 8 minutes of content from you and they want to remember how your system works. That slide deck is a great chance for them to quickly remember. If they didn't pick it up in the video, they should get it from the slide deck. So all the guidance about the specific questions you need to answer in those videos and also on that slide deck can be found on the website and in our application handbook as well. And that video does not need to be the most elaborate thing. We've seen people do Zoom calls, literally like this, share your slides, record the Zoom call, do a 3-minute pitch. Or we've seen people use their phones. We've seen people just do a simple phone and then overlay some different things. We've seen people do Canva, PowerPoint recordings. So figure out what is manageable for you in the time that you've got as well. Next one, maybe you could pick this one up, Mariah.
Sure thing. So you're starting your application today. What do we recommend you do? So do your research. You're already halfway there. You're sitting on a call with us. You're listening about the accelerator and how it could benefit you. But have a look at our website. Get into the kind of deep dive of the program and how we can support. Look at the startups we've supported previously and get some inspiration from them. You can maybe pull some similarities from them into your application. And make sure you're kind of reading up as much as you can about that application process and the videos. Online, we provided a full breakdown of questions that we expect you to answer in the videos. Make sure you've read them. Because we've seen time and time again, people film their videos and they've thought, oh gosh, I've forgotten to miss that one out. And our assessors will be sitting ticking, making sure that you're answering them also. Make sure you kind of do your research and know everything you can about TechX and the application process. Start your application early. If you've not started it by now, you're already behind on some of the other ones that are in the application process. So I would recommend, as Edward said, start it today. You never know how long the kind of filming your videos, completing the application form can actually take. So the sooner you can do that, the better, because that can give us time to make sure you're ticking all the boxes. We can review your videos for you to make sure they're working. But if you do it at the last minute, you're less likely to get that review time from us. Stand out, as Edward said, there's around 30, 40 videos that are viewed in one assessment period, so anything you can do to make sure the assessors remember you is a plus. We've seen, you said, game shows, we've seen the full team getting involved, but show your passion. That's what we want to see the most. That's why we do videos. We want to see why you and your team are passionate about this technology, because passion is essential in an entrepreneur. And if you're going to make sure the company progresses, you need to be passionate about the technology and making sure it progresses into the industry. Know the timeline. That 1st of October date will come down very, very, very quickly. So make sure you've got kind of all the key dates penciled in your diary and you're meeting the deadline for the application process specifically. Read the questions carefully. I touched on that. But what I would do is, at the next slide, you'll see we have an application handbook that goes into full detail about your videos. We've got some example video clips in there, so make sure you review that and get in touch. Edward and I don't review the videos, we don't score the videos. So what we can do is help you build those out. We can review scripts for you, we can answer any additional questions you have about the accelerator. So use today as your first kind of route into us. Use the Q&A function, pop in some questions for us, and we can start a dialogue. But if after this you would kind of need some additional support, we are here to help. And the TechX inbox email address is on our website too, where you can reach both Edward and I. Sophie, do you want to jump on to the next slide? So online, you'll find our application handbook. This is a handy resource that I would go and download, and it'll help you build out your application. We've got some tips there about how to build out those videos too. We understand that everybody's not video gurus, so we've got things in there about building out your scripts, storyboarding videos, and as I said, some clips of past videos we've seen from applicants to give you some inspiration. If you jump onto the next slide. And that's us. So you've got the QR code on the screen there. Scan it, start your application, but I encourage you to pop some questions into the chat or into the Q&A function, should I say, and we can answer them right now. So we've got a couple of questions in already. So our first question is, should we plan to deploy a product in Scotland? And that's all about that's what we asked for in the Why TechX video. So you don't need to be based in the UK to apply. But should you be successful in your application, you need to register a UK business. And in that Why TechX video, you need to demonstrate why you're going to give back to the UK and Scottish economy. So it could be creating jobs here, it could be working with partners here, but it can also be planning to deploy your technology here in the UK and Scotland as well. So any of those 3 tick boxes is what we kind of expect to see in that Why TechX video.
Excellent. Another question was about if you are hoping to raise revenue, would it still be relevant? Slightly complicated one in theory. So we only support technologies, so the specific technology itself, when they are pre-commercial, because that funding that we provide is to help you get to that stage of being able to deploy that technology. Slight caveat is that obviously we are focused on the energy industry. So if there's a different use case for that technology outside of the energy industry that you're currently commercial in healthcare or some other area, for example, and you think actually we could pivot and do something in the energy industry and we want to deploy and test the technology there, it might be that we can support on that side of things. But generally, if your company is making enough money from other things you're doing and generating revenue from the technology, then it's probably too advanced for us. We're here to help you when you're at that early stages, trying to find money, not able to make revenue, and get you closer to that point as well. So technology readiness level 2 to 6. If you're generating revenue, you're probably now looking at 9, so would be a bit out of scope for that. Excellent. Don't know if there's many more questions. This is your last chance. Pop anything in the Q&A. We are always around to help as best we can. It seems like the deadline is fast approaching, but fingers crossed, half a day, you could probably throw out some videos in that time and perfect them. All right.
Amazing.
Doesn't look like there's any more questions. Get in touch if there are. Good luck with your applications. We've been the TechX team at the Net Zero Technology Centre, and we will hopefully see your applications very, very soon.
Thanks all. Bye.
Goodbye.